Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Monday, March 24th. So, market up today across the board. It was a good day. Headlines talking about Trump maybe not going so hard on the tariffs. And of course, we got the headline trading reflex that kicks in and everybody jumps on that. But we have what I would call to be a cautiously positive monetary environment. The entire drain, the tax drain of March 15th has been recovered and then some. So that's taken care of. And we still have, like I've been telling you guys, very strong fiscal flows. The thing that still concerns me is we have really high levels of reserves in the banking system. And as I've explained in the past, that's a little bit of that's kind of like, clogging up the mechanism, so to speak. I talked about the bilge pump analogy. When you get this big dump of reserves into the system, that's like a big wave crashing onto a boat and filling it up, and you gotta get rid of that water, otherwise the boat's gonna sink. And because we're under the debt ceiling, that limits the ability of the Treasury to drain those reserves. And that's all that Treasury sales are. It's just a reserve drain. I've been over this so many times. So I think they're going to end up raising the debt ceiling probably sometime, I would say, in mid to late May. I know like next month, April 15th, Treasury will get a big inflow from tax deposits. You get another one on May 1st. That was the IRS tax extension for hurricane affected areas last year. So we'll get a little bit of a reprieve, and that'll help drain some reserves. But then they're going to have to raise the debt ceiling by, I don't know, May or June, end of May, June, something like that. And I think they will. I think, we go through this every cycle. It's brinkmanship right down to the end, but eventually they know they have to do it. There is a contingent of staunch deficit hawks in the House, so they have to be dealt with. But I think they'll probably end up raising the debt ceiling, and if they end up raising the debt ceiling, I see the market going to new all-time highs, okay? Not immediately, it's not going to shoot right up there, but I think we have a condition, we have a monetary condition in place, which is, it's just positive. I don't see anything in, at least through the end of this fiscal year, September 30th, that is going to cause any problems. We got the April 2nd, these retaliatory reciprocal tariffs, they're called. Those go on. I'll be able to track that on a daily basis, on a daily Treasury statement, just to see, what's coming in terms of tax deposits, customs taxes. So it's going to be very clear and, very easy to see what's going on there. Very transparent. So, if something happens, if it looks like, hey, that's really dropping the flows down, all right, then it's going to be something to consider and maybe switch strategies. But I don't see that being a big deal. I just don't see that being a big deal. I'll tell you something. I just got a message from a friend of mine who said that, the Social Security checks, they go out weekly every Wednesday, depending on, when you receive it. It could be the first Wednesday, the second Wednesday, the third Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday of the month. And she told me that hers, which normally she gets on the third Wednesday of the month, it came on Saturday. So the only reason I'm saying this is because maybe some of you have seen this interview with Donkey Face, Howard Lutnick. That's my name for this guy now, is Donkey Face. I'm sorry, he just looks like a donkey. He should get rid of the beard. I think he would look better without that gray beard. And he has that kind of a face. He's a short guy. I don't know. It just reminds me of a donkey face. Somebody here got upset because I called him Donkey Face. And they said, how dare you call him Donkey Face? Because he's a survivor of 9/11. He wasn't there on 9/11. He was taking his, all of his firm got wiped out. His brother got wiped out. A terrible, terrible thing. 9/11 was a terrible, terrible thing that happened to this country. He wasn't there. So he wasn't a survivor of 9/11. He wasn't there. I was down there that day. I was down there when the second plane hit, and I was when the South Tower came down. I was a block away and running as the thing came crashing down, and that gigantic ash plume enveloped us, and so I was there. All right. I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it. I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole with this thing, but I call him Donkey Face. And he came out with something. He was on some podcast or some interview. I think a lot of you have seen it. And he said, "What's the big deal if you don't get your Social Security check?" He says. "My mother-in-law is 94 years old, and I'll tell you something, if she doesn't get her Social Security check, she's not going to complain to anybody." Well, no shit, you freaking, this is the most tone-deaf, elitist asshole that I've ever seen in my life. First of all, she's 94 years old. How many more checks you think she's going to get? Okay, by now, if you're 94, you're pretty much ready to go, all right? Second of all, your son-in-law, Donkey Face, is a fucking billionaire. So yeah, you're not going to worry. But to just casually say, the only people that are going to worry if they don't get their Social Security check, those are going to be frauds, people who are committing frauds. That is the most fucking tone deaf and elitist fucking comment that I've ever heard in my life. I mean, this guy is just, what a piece of work this guy is. I thought Musk was bad. Musk is he's zany, he's crazy, he's got the economics backward. But this guy, Donkey Face, I mean, he is just insufferable, man. Insufferable, this guy. I mean, what a freaking comment. If anybody's going to be the first to go in this Trump administration, I think it's going to be this guy, because he's out there yapping and blabbing all over the place on all these shows every day, and he's making these ridiculous comments. And by the way, when he says, if you're going to complain because you don't get your Social Security check, that means you're committing fraud. I mean, up yours, buddy. And, here's the thing. What he's doing here, he's just parroting what Musk said. Because Musk was the first one who made that comment, or, who said, only people who are committing fraud are going to complain when they don't get their check. No, I'm sorry. That's not true. I get a Social Security check, okay? If it doesn't come, I'm going to be complaining. A lot of people are going to be complaining, and they're not fraudsters. I mean, this elitist crap from people who, first of all, don't know what the fuck they're talking about, okay? When they spew this nonsensical garbage, that's in their brain and nowhere else, about how the monetary system functions, where they have it all completely wrong. And then they make these comments. You got a guy worth $400 billion saying it's no big deal if we let people go. Or, look, I told you guys, before you get all crazy, I like what he did with stuff like USAID and a lot of this shit that was going to nefarious recipients and programs and projects that we don't need to be sending money to. This claim that there's millions upon millions of people over 120 years old getting Social Security, I told you, I do not believe that. I think that's total bullshit. And he hasn't given any proof of that. But now it's kind of like, I'm not even paying attention to Musk, who I think at this point, he's probably close to moving on back into his businesses, because Tesla, has been hammered so bad. But this guy, Donkey Face, he's going to be sticking around. And he said something too on this podcast. He said, first of all, I've raised the question, I've been on Wall Street my whole entire career. All right. I've been a member of 4 exchanges. Okay, I was a NYMEX member, I was a COMEX member, I was a Chicago Mercantile Exchange member, I was a New York Futures Exchange member. Before that, I was with Merrill Lynch Commodities back in the late 70s, early 80s. I was doing business with large Japanese corporations, hedging business, okay, in financial futures. I've been around, you know. I never heard of this guy other than the fact that he was running Cantor, and I knew people at Cantor. He even said in this interview, if you watch this interview, Donkey Face says that Gerald Cantor, who was the founder of the firm, Cantor Fitzgerald is a primary dealer in government securities, all right? They're a bond dealer. So Donkey Face said that Gerald Cantor, he was getting up in age, you know, at the time when Donkey Face was a young guy working there. And Gerald Cantor told Donkey Face, or selected Donkey Face, to squire his wife around at these, you know, highfalutin charity events and stuff like that. So he was like kind of an escort, you know, to Gerald Cantor's wife. He said it. I'm not making it up. It's on the freaking interview. And so I think what happened was he got really, really close to the Cantors, to Gerald Cantor and the wife. And eventually, when Gerald Cantor decided it was time for him to retire, he was an old man, he basically handed over. And again, I'm just repeating what Donkey Face said. I'm not speculating here. That's, you know, he basically said that the firm was handed over to him, and he ran it. And his reputation on Wall Street, from what I understand, because the only thing I know is that I never heard of this guy in any capacity that had to do with trading. I heard about him as, you know, the CEO, the head of Cantor Fitzgerald, but that was it. I never, and you know, I knew some big players on Wall Street during my time. Very big players on Wall Street during my time. I never heard about this guy other than the fact that he was the CEO. And, you know, somebody, I remember, like, I did a video when, what's his name? Cohn, the guy who was with Trump in the first Trump administration. I forget even his name. Steve Cohn? No, that's Steve. I'm thinking of Stevie Cohen. I don't know. He was a NYMEX member. I remember him. He went on to be, he was like the chief financial officer or the CEO of Goldman or something like that. Like, I knew this guy. I traded with him on the NYMEX. Guys like Vincent Viola, okay, who was the NYMEX chairman. I know him. You know, he ended up starting that algo shop called Virtue Financial. He owns the Florida Panthers, a billionaire, very, very, you know, serious, intense guy, West Point graduate. I knew a lot of these guys personally. This guy, I heard of him as the CEO. I never heard anything about this guy in terms or having anything to do with trading acumen or running a desk or anything like that, all right? And I mean, you got to ask yourself, I think you got to ask yourself, if you're a normal person, how does a guy in that position, who we have to say should have some degree of savvy, not just in financial endeavors or the markets, but also just in conduct among people, in communication, in speaking. How do you sit there? I mean, there's like, what? I think 65 million, 70 million Americans receiving Social Security, if I'm accurate. How do you sit there in an interview with kind of a smile on your face in a mocking, almost a mocking tone, saying anybody who gets upset that they don't get their Social Security payment on time, well, they're a fraud, they're committing fraud. I mean, how does a guy say something like that? A total moron would say something like that. Somebody from the street might say something like that. But a guy who has risen to the highest levels of Wall Street, who is now at the highest levels of national policy, government in the United States of America, okay, the most important country in the world, speaks to the president probably on a daily basis, okay, has been involved in the entire process of getting a guy elected to the presidency of the United States. How does a guy sit there with a stupid smile on his face and say, you know, in the most earnest way, he says, if you bitch and complain that you don't get your Social Security payment, which, by the way, that's not a gift. We all pay taxes paying into that system over the entire course of our working careers. You know, that's why I hate this term entitlements. It's not an entitlement. We paid for that, okay? They take it out of our paychecks. Or if you're self-employed, you pay self-employment tax, okay? So they should get rid of this fucking term entitlement, because it's not an entitlement. It's ours. We paid for it. It's like an annuity, okay, that is now giving us a return. Now, if you said that, let's say you have an annuity with Fidelity or Vanguard or one of these things, MetLife or something that you set up, and then they don't pay you, and they send you a letter, or you call up MetLife or Vanguard or Fidelity and you say, where's my check? I'm supposed to get my check. And Vanguard or Fidelity or MetLife or any one of those say, you know what? You must be committing fraud. Yeah, we didn't send you the check this week or on time. So that must mean you're a fraudster. That's what this guy is saying. It is disgusting. It is disgusting. I cannot believe this. This guy, like, I don't even have the words to describe what a low-life piece of shit this guy is. He really is. And again, I'm astonished that he is where he is. He must have some kind of, like, inexplicable, behind the scenes, like, hardcore tactic, dirty manipulations to get what he wants. Almost like some kind of really, really sinister, clever mafia boss or something like that. I don't see any other way. Because a guy who's above board, a guy who has manners, who has some eloquence, who has intelligence that exudes, self-discipline, knows how to communicate in a tone that is mature, in a tone that is understanding of others. I don't think they would behave that way. I do not think they would behave that way. And I just find that statement, that comment, to be reprehensible, and to say, like, my 94-year-old mother-in-law is not bitching or wouldn't bitch, so you don't have the right to complain, and if you do, you're a fraudster. I mean, think about that, folks. Think about that. That's exactly the message that's being put out there. Exactly. I'm not tweaking it. I'm not exaggerating it. Go listen to his thing. Go listen to his interview. That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. Now, if you want an example of somebody talking down to you and he's a little short guy, okay, I would tower over that guy. If you want an example of somebody talking down in the most condescending way that you could possibly imagine, just listen to what that jerk says, all right? Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Look, I voted for Trump. Let me be clear, because a lot of you come back to me and say, Mike, you know, you got what you had. Yeah, I voted for Trump. I want him to succeed. I wish he would rein in Musk, and I wish he would get rid of this donkey face. Donkey face should go back to I don't know where, but he needs to get going. Anyway, that's it. Please like and subscribe if you've done that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm shooting for 10,000 subscribers. That'll be cool. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. I'm the only one who has an applied approach to MMT. I take the concepts and understandings of modern monetary theory. By the way, people ask me, like, why is it called a theory? A theory is just a body of principles. All right, so this is a body of principles. It describes how monetary systems operate. It's not policy, okay? Because people a lot of time, oh, they did MMT and look what happened. You don't do MMT, just like you don't do physics. Physics is a body of principles, an understanding, a description. Same thing. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Bye.